This portion of the John Fredericks Show is brought to you by Hargrave Military Academy. Attend an educational and informative open house event at Hargrave Military Academy in Chatham, Virginia. For more information, visit online at hargrave.edu. Hargrave Military Academy. Build his future.
Joining us now is Congressman Robert Hurt. He's a Republican. He's from Virginia's 5th District, and he sits on some of the Financial Services Committee, but he's been right in the middle of this Syrian action from day one. Congressman, it is always, sir, our honor to have you with us.
Well, thank you so much, John, for having me on your program. It's always a pleasure for me.
Now, Congressman, couple things I want to get your thoughts on, because you haven't been shy about questioning some of the president's ideas in getting us involved in this Middle Eastern Syrian conflict. But my first question right now is, there's some conflicting evidence coming out that we've heard in the past 24 hours saying, well, maybe we're not 100% certain, 100% clear that indeed Syrian President Assad is the one that actually hit the trigger on the launch of the chemical weapons. One German well-respected newspaper saying they have evidence that maybe it was not Assad, but then other people are saying, well, maybe it isn't. We've heard some congressmen say off the record they didn't really get enough evidence. What do you think?
Well, I think that there's certainly a question about it. I think the administration has adjudged in its sort of the way the intelligence community assigns ratings, so to speak. They have assigned their confidence at a high confidence that he did it, and I think that they, I'm certain that they have evidence that is that to support that, but at the same time, it's not a 100% confirmation, and so it leaves open that question. And there was an interesting article in the Atlantic magazine recently that talked about the two questions I think most people have that question it. And number one is why would he do this? Because he would certainly know the consequences, and then second, or could know the consequences, or know the consequences of what could happen, and then secondly, it's not clear to me why he would have done this on a massive scale in the suburbs of Damascus. And so both of those things, in addition to the other reports, do cast a question. But for me, John, and we talked last week about this. For me, the question is, well, what if, even if he did, does that rise to the level of an American national security interest? And that's the thing that I'm struggling with. I just don't see it. I don't see how the fact that he has violated an international norm, as we've heard, amounts to an American national security interest at this point. Now, I'm not saying that it couldn't be a serious threat to the United States and its interests, but at this point, I just don't see it.
I think that's I think, Congressman, that's the concern that many people have. We were talking earlier, and look, we all understand this isn't a plebiscite, and so you were elected to Congress. You have to lead. You have to make the decisions that you feel are in the best interest of the United States. That's why you're up there. But I was just reading a CBS New York Times a poll that was released last evening, and 61% of Americans want nothing to do with getting involved in Syria. And when you look at independents, it's going down 3-1. So I think there's got to be a balance between, you got to do the right thing. But on the other hand, as you're well aware of, it's tough to get the U.S. involved in a war that has this degree of public opposition right out of the box.
Yeah. Well, and in addition, and I know you know this because of the work that you do, in addition to doing the right thing and also acknowledging sometimes you may feel the right thing is different than what the popular opinion is, one of the things that I think Washington suffers from the most is the fact that it believes that common sense resides within the Beltway. I'm sorry, that's not what I believe. I believe common sense resides outside of the Beltway, out in the countryside, and popular opinion is extremely important. If you listen to the people that you represent, you're going to learn something, and certainly I have learned a lot over the last 2 weeks in terms of how to approach this issue. Mm-hmm. And I imagine a lot of my colleagues have as well. There, like I said, there are a lot of. I was on Sunday. I was with a fellow who a decorated World War II veteran, 80 plus years old. Mm-hmm. He said that we don't have a dog in this fight at this point. He said, if I believe that we did, he said, I would sign up tomorrow to go back and defend my country. And like I said, I don't see our national security interest at this point.
I think you as always, Congressman, really hit a bullseye on this, because there's two issues I want to get your comments on. Number one, as you said, there's no national security interest of the U.S. at stake, no allies at stake, no strategic assets at stake. There's nothing, and we're injecting ourselves in the middle of a civil war. The other thing that I want to get your thoughts on is, I guess, the language. I mean, we've all learned now that words mean things. We just found out that on Monday with what the Secretary of State said about, the son of Redline. I'm going to put that aside for a second. Words mean things. So we got the administration basically saying limited strike, retaliation, can't do this, can't do that. But in reality, if we launch some kind of a strike in Syria, is that not an act of war?
Well, I think it absolutely is. I mean, if someone lobs some missiles into Washington D.C. or to New York City, I mean, I know what our response would be, and so I think inserting ourselves into a Syrian civil war has consequences. Now, listen, we have the greatest intelligence outfit in the world, and they are going to do everything they can to help the president make the right decision if he's not already made it. And I am sure that they have gamed all this out. But I'm telling you, it's hard for me to see how there aren't it's not a profound risk of having this Syrian civil war escalate into something regional, and we already have seen that this conflict is serving up as a proxy for bigger players like the United States and like Russia and Iran. And I think that we have to be very careful. Suddenly sparking something that could flame up. I mean, we have been dealing with the Middle East for the last 10 years, and I think that's something. The whole undercurrent of the Muslim extremists versus the Great Satan. And remember, that's what the extremists think of the United States is. We are the Great Satan. I just think that the risk is not risk is great, and I think it must go into the mix.
Congressman, yesterday, Secretary of State John Kerry kind of made the off-the-cuff comment saying, well, I'm going to give Assad a week if he can get rid of these chemical weapons. Then he had to back off the statement, so we're not sure if that was planned because you never know what this administration does. So maybe it was planned. But it seemed to me, I've been covering this stuff a while, seemed to me like it was just a statement that he regretted making. Then Vladimir Putin jumps on it and says, "Hey, I got an idea. I'm going to get in line for the Nobel Peace Prize, and why don't we put the international community in charge of these chemical weapons? Everybody goes home happy." What do you think?
Well, I wish that this administration would speak more clearly and would be. I just think that you end up with so many unintended consequences when you don't speak clearly and with unity coming out of this administration in terms of what you will and what you won't do. It becomes way too much drama at a time when we need serious clarity here. With respect to Putin's offer and the possible Syrian response, listen, if we can use use diplomacy to diffuse this, or to make it so that we don't have innocent people getting gassed in Damascus in the future, I think that that's something that we should absolutely do. We will see whether or not this is just whether or not that Putin is able to deliver, and whether or not it's actually effective. You know, that's the other thing is once you start playing these games with some of these, you know, with some of these folks, you know, you end up just getting dragged further into a quagmire of deceit, and but we will see. I hope that it's something that that bears fruit.
Congressman, what do you look for tonight in President Obama's speech to the nation?
Well, it's hard for me to see what he can say that hasn't already been said. You know, we know he's a gifted, charismatic politician, and maybe he summons up something new, but it's hard for me to see what he can say that's new in this situation. Or that will convince the overwhelming majority of the people that I represent that this is actually a really great idea. I think that people have concluded that there is no national security interest, and even if there were, there at this point is no way to go in the way that he has described. And this, you know, he keeps talking about, you know, Kerry talks about how this is limited, it's not war, and all this. I don't think that anybody who is informed by the experience over the last 10 years believes that we can really go in a limited way and not get dragged into something huge that is beyond our control and beyond our objective. And that's the point. I get really tired of hearing the president talk about how war-weary we are. That's really not relevant, in my opinion. We got to have the greatest military on earth, the most professional military on earth, and the American people know what's right. And if we believe that it's the right thing to do, it doesn't matter whether we're weary or tired. We're going to do the right thing. The problem here is it's not the right thing, and I think that's a point that's got to be made, because if we reject this as Congress and the president decides to follow our advice, that he needs to project. It's his responsibility to project strength.
Right.
And he needs to say, this is not weakness, my friends. God help you if you think this is weakness. This is strength, and we're doing this because we believe this is the right thing to do. But in the event that this happens, something happens in the future that is in our national security interest, we will be there, and he needs to be able to project that.
And are you not troubled by some of these other statements that John Kerry made that I just find, let me say, somewhat odd, in telegraphing what we're going to do, saying that, well, the effort is going to be unbelievably small. I know that Senator McCain went crazy, jumped on that, sent all kinds of tweets out. I mean, I can't understand. It's like, why would you tell the opposition and then promise what you're? It's almost like, well, we don't really want to do any harm, but we have to do something. How does this make any sense?
Yeah, what it does, whether it is in fact the case or not, but what it underscores is all those critics of the president who say that he really is doing this, and I'm not saying this is why he's doing it, but there are critics who say the only reason he's doing this is to save face for his own political skin, and this gives them all the ammunition they need by saying he just wants to do something, he just wants to spend, $500 million in American ordnance to make and lives in Syria for sure, to make good on his red line statement. Man, it's very troubling indeed. And then you have Kerry, who comes out and is sort of shooting all over the place with his statements. It doesn't signal strength. It doesn't signal clarity, and that is what we need on the world stage more than ever.
It's pretty crazy stuff, no doubt about that I don't think I've ever seen a foreign policy run this way. I was saying earlier, Congressman, that this is making Jimmy Carter look like a blackjack Pershing. I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah. Well, these are obviously serious affairs. We will continue to listen to people we represent. We'll continue to in the next couple of days, continue to listen to the administration and anything it has to say, because I believe that's my obligation as a member and as a representative. But as I said at the outset, it's hard for me to see how I'm going to be able to support this in the end.
Okay, Congressman, as always, we appreciate your time with us and our audience, and we appreciate and thank you for your unabashed, refreshing candor. Congressman Robert Hurt, Republican from the 5th District of Virginia. You want more information, you want to sign up for his newsletter like I did, go to hurt.house.gov. That's HURT, hurt.house.gov.